Chapter 11. It looked like as if Ben had recovered only slightly since Thomas had seen him in the homestead. He wore nothing but shorts. His withered-thin white skin stretched across his bones like a sheet wrapped tightly around a bundle of sticks. Rope-like veins ran along his body, pulsing a green, but less pronounced than the day before. His bloodshot eyes fell open, almost as if he were seeing his next meal. Ben crouched, ready to spring for another attack. At some point, a knife had made an appearance, gripping in his right hand. Thomas was filled with a queasy fear, disbelief that this would happen at all. Ben, Thomas looked towards the voice, surprised to see Albie standing at the edge of the graveyard, a mere phantom in the fading light. Relief flooded Thomas's body. Albie held a large bow, an arrow cocked from the kill, pointed right straight at Ben. Ben, Albie repeated, stop right now, or you ain't gonna see tomorrow. Thomas looked at Ben, who stared viciously at Albie, his tongue darting between his lips to wet them. What could possibly be wrong with that kid? Thomas thought. The boy had turned into a monster. Why? If you kill me, Ben shrieked, spittle flying from his mouth, far enough to hit Thomas in the face. You'll get the wrong guy, snapped the gaze back to Thomas. He's the shank you want to kill. His voice was full of madness. Don't be stupid, Ben, Albie said, his voice calm as he continued to aim the arrow. Thomas has only just got here. There was nothing to worry about. You're still bugging from the changing. You should have never left your bed. He's one of us, Ben shouted. I saw him. He's bad. We have to kill him. Let me gut him. Thomas took an involuntary step backwards, horrified by what Ben had said. What did it mean? He'd seen him? Why did he think Thomas was bad? Albie had to move his weapon in a centimeter, still aiming for Ben. You'll leave that to me and the keepers to figure out, shook Face. His hands were perfectly steady as he held the bow, almost as if he had propped his against a branch for support. Right now, back to your scrawny butt down to the homestead. He'll take he'll want to take us home, Ben said. He'll want to get us out the maze. Better we all jumped off the cliff. Better we tore each other's guts out. What are you talking? Thomas began. Shut your face, Ben screamed. Shut your ugly traditioner's face. Ben, Albie said calmly. I want to count to three. He's bad, he's bad, he's bad. Ben was whispering now, almost chanting. He swayed back and forth, switching the knife from one hand to one hand, eyes glued on Thomas. One. Bad, 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 bad. Ben smiled. His teeth seemed to glow, greenish in the pale light. Thomas wanted to look away, get out of here, but he couldn't move. He was too mesmerized, too scared. Two. Albie's voice went louder, filling with warning. Ben, Thomas said, trying to make sense of it all. I don't even know what. Ben screamed, a strangled gurgle of madness, and leaped into the air, slashing out with his blade. Three, Albie shouted. There was the sound of snapping wire, the whoosh of an object slicing through the air, the sickening wet thunk in the finding a home. Ben had snapped violently to the left, twisting his body until he landed on the stomach. His feet pointed towards Thomas. He made no sound. Thomas jumped to his feet, stumbled forward. The long shaft of an arrow struck on Ben's cheek, the blood surprisingly less than Thomas had expected, but seeping out all the same, black in the darkness like oil. The only movement was Ben's right little finger, twitching. Thomas fought to the urge to poke. Was Ben dead because of him? Was it his fault? Come on, Albie said. Bad girls will take care of him tomorrow. What just happened here? Thomas thought, the world tilting around him as he stared at the lifeless body. What did I ever do to this kid? He looked up, wanting answers, but Albie was already gone. A trembling branch was the only sign he had ever stood there in the first place. Thomas squeezed his eyes against the blinding light of the sun as he emerged from the woods. He was limping, his ankles screaming in pain, though he had no memory of hurting it. He held one hand carefully over the area where he'd been bitten. The other clutched in his stomach as if that would prevent what Thomas now felt was inevitable barf. The image of Ben's head popped into his mind, cocked at an unnatural angle, blood running down the shaft of an arrow until it collected, dripping, splattered on the ground. The image of it was the last straw. He fell into his knees by one of the straggly trees on the outskirts of the forest and threw up, retching as he coughed and spat out every last morsel of the active, nasty bile of his stomach. His whole body shook, and it seemed like the vomiting would never end. And then, as if his brain was mocking him, tried to make it worse, he had a thought. He'd now been at the glade for roughly 24 hours, one full day. That was it. And look at all the things that had happened, all the terrible things. Surely it could one get better. That night, Thomas lay staring at the sparkling sky, wondering if he'd ever sleep again. Every time he closed his eyes, the monstrous image of Ben leaping at him, the boy's face set in lunacy, filled his mind. Eyes open or not, he could swear he kept hearing the moist thunk of the arrow slamming into Ben's cheek. Thomas knew he'd never forget those few terrible minutes in the graveyard. Say something, Chuck said for the fifth time since they'd set out for the sleeping bags. No, everyone replied. No, no, Thomas replied, just as he had before. Everyone knows what happened. It happened once or twice. Some grievous strong shank flipping out and attacked somebody. Don't think you're special. For the first time, Thomas thought Chuck's personality had gone mildly irritating to intolerable. Chuck, be glad I'm not holding Albie's bow right now. I'm just playing shut up, Chuck. Go to sleep. Thomas just couldn't handle it right then. Eventually, his buddy did doze off, and based on the rumble of snores across the glade, so did everyone else. Hours later, deep in the night, Thomas was still the only one awake. He wanted to cry, but he didn't. He wanted to find Albie and punch him for no reason whatsoever, but he didn't. He wanted to scream and kick the spit open up the box and jump into the blackness below, but he didn't. He closed his eyes and forced the thoughts and dark images away, and at some point he fell asleep. Chuck had to drag Thomas out of his sleeping bag in the morning, drag him to the showers, and drag him to the dressing rooms the whole time. Thomas felt mopey and indifferent, his head aching, his body wanting more sleep. Breakfast was a blur, and an hour after it was over, Thomas couldn't remember what he'd eaten. He was so tired, his brain felt like someone else had gone into and sappled into his skull in a dozen places. Heartburn ravaged his chest. But from what he could tell, naps were frowned upon in the giant working farm of the glade. He stood with Newt in the front of the barn and the bloodhouse, getting ready for his first training session with the keeper. Despite the rough morning, he was actually excited to learn more, and for the chance to get his mind off Ben and the graveyard. Cows moved, sheep bleated, pigs squealed all around him. Somewhere close by, a dog barked, making Thomas hope Fry Pan didn't bring new meaning to the word hot dog. Hot dog, he thought. When's the last time I heard hot dog? Who did I eat with? Tommy, are you listening to me? Thomas snapped out, and a gaze focused on Newt, who had been talking who knew how long. Thomas hadn't heard a word of it. Yeah, sorry, couldn't sleep last night. Newt attempted a pathetic smile. Can't blame you there. Went out with a bugging ringer you did. Probably think I'm a slithhead shank for getting you ready to work on a butt off today after an episode like that. Thomas shrugged. Work's probably the best thing I could do. Anything to get my mind off it. Newt nodded, as his smile became more genuine. You're as smart as you look, Tommy. That's the one of the reasons we run this place and all night nights like a busy like. You get lazy, you get sad, start giving up, plain and simple. Thomas nodded, absently kicking a loose lock across the dusty, cracked stone floor of the glade. So what's the latest on the girl from yesterday? If anything had penetrated the haze of his long morning, it had been thoughts of her. He wanted to know more about her, understand the odd connection he felt to her, still in a coma sleeping. Jacks are spoon feeding her whatever soups fry pan can cook of, checking her vitals and the such. She seems okay, just dead for the world for now. That just that was just plain weird. If it hadn't been for a whole Ben in the graveyard incident, Thomas was sure she would been able. He thought about the last night. Maybe he wouldn't have been able to sleep for an entirely different reason. He wanted to know who she was and if he really didn't know somehow. Yeah, Newt said, weird's a good word to awkward was any, I expect. Thomas looked over Newt's shoulder and the big faded red barn pushed through its girls aside. So what's first? Milk cows or slaughter some poor little pigs? Newt laughed. A sound Thomas realized he hadn't heard much since he arrived. We always make the newbies start with some body slicers. Don't worry, cutting up fry pans victuals ain't but a part. Slicers to anything and even dealing with some beasties. Too bad I can't remember my whole life. Maybe I love killing animals. He was just joking, but Newt didn't seem to get it. Newt nodded towards the barn. Oh, you'll know good and well by the time the sun sets tonight. Let's go meet Winston. He's the keeper. Winston was an acne-covered kid, short but muscular, and it seemed to Thomas that the keeper liked his job way too much. Maybe he was sent here for being a serial killer, he thought. Winston showed Thomas around for the first hour, pointing out which pens and which animals, where the chicken and the turkey scoops are, what went where in the barn. The dog, a pesky black lab named Bark, took quickly to Thomas, hanging on his feet in the first entire tour. Wondering where the dog came from, Thomas asked Winston, who said Bark had just always been there. Luckily, he seemed to have a lot of his name as a joke, because he was pretty quiet. The second hour was spending actually working with the farm animals, feeding, cleaning, fixing a fence, scrapping up the clunk. Thomas found himself using the later terms more and more. The third hour was the hardest for Thomas. He had to watch as Winston slaughtered the hog and began preparing its many parts for the future eating. Thomas swore two things to himself as he walked away for a lunch break. First, his career would not be able to be with animals. Second, he'd never again eat something that came out from a pig. Winston had set him for to go on alone. That's he'd hanging around at the bloodhouse, which was fine for Thomas. As he walked towards the east door, he couldn't stop picturing Winston in the dark corner of the barn, gnawing at raw pig's feet. The guy had gave him the willies. Thomas was just passing the box when he surprised to see someone enter the glade from the maze. Through the west door, to his left, an Asian kid with strong arms and short black hair, who looked like a little older than Thomas. The runner stopped 3 steps in, then bent over and put his hands on his knees, gasping for breath. He looked like he'd just run 20 miles, face red, skin covered in sweat, clothes soaked. Thomas stared, overcome his curiosity. He had to see a runner up close to talk one. Plus, based on the last couple of days, the runner was home hours early. He stepped forward, eager to meet him and ask questions. Before he could form a sentence, the boy collapsed to the ground.